competitiveness and the price is really, really important. And you cannot buy your placement at all times. So even if you have a really high bid, which is 2 times as high as your direct competitor, but your deal is very, very bad in essence, then you might still lose from your direct competitor because Google really finds the competitiveness important.
All right, GM, and welcome everybody. Welcome back to the PPC Mastery Podcast. I have another special guest today, the man, the myth, the legend, the meme lord, the partner in crime. He's back, Bob Meijer. Give him a round of applause, everybody. Woohoo!
GM.
I should actually, next time, Bob, I should load the sound effects in 𝗪𝘁 so that I can give you that round of applause.
Oh, yeah. That would be the first time people will actually applause for me.
Yeah, man. But welcome back. It's good to have you back. Let's just dive right into the content this time, because in the last episode you already mentioned some things that people may not know about you. Your passion for vehicles and BMW and everything. So let's just dive straight into shopping today. So we are in the process of launching / have recently launched, because I don't know when this podcast is actually going to go live, the new shopping mastery course. So I want to talk all about the key components of successful Google shopping campaigns and everything that goes into it, maybe some new updates that are coming or that have just recently been launched. Let's see where the conversation goes, but it's all going to be about Google shopping today. So let's just start with this. How have you seen Google shopping change over the years? And then after that, we can dive into the key components of Google shopping. But how have you seen it change over the years?
So in terms of UI, UX, I think changes have been quite stable. If you take a look at, for example, how products are being displayed inside of Google search, then obviously placements have varied a little bit. So we have a lot more shopping placements right now inside of the full Google ecosystem. But if you just look at the core, so just the products being displayed within the first page of the search and result pages on top, and within the product/shopping tab, that has been relatively constant. And obviously layouts have changed and a lot of features and annotations and whatnot have been added throughout the years. But the core functionality, is basically the same. Google is still pushing products that are the best fit and are the best deal for Google users. And that's still the case today.
Yeah. Do you see differences there in what Google is showing on the ad side and how it's matching certain searches to specific products, and which products are getting their ads shown in terms of ranking factors and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think Google is getting more and more refined in how products are being shown and what products are being shown to what individual user, because Google is sitting on a lot more signals right now than 10 years ago. Also, a lot more merchants have been added to Google's ecosystem. So I think, I don't know the exact number, but I was reading through the launch of Google Merchant Center Next, and Google basically mentioned that they onboarded so many new merchants year over year that they decided to launch a completely new platform, which is now Google Merchant Center Next instead of Google Merchant Center Classic, to make it more available for the smaller retailers out there to join. So since a lot more merchants have joined, things have become more competitive, new products have been added. Therefore, Google can even better match the product users are looking for. So I think it's getting more and more refined. I can totally notice that myself as well, because if I am looking for a product, I basically head over to Google Shopping, mainly the Shopping tab or also the Products tab right now, and I just do my analysis and researching phase over there. And I didn't do that 5-6 years ago, where I went to, for example, big marketplaces first, or the big comparison platforms. Like in the Netherlands you have 𝗬𝗍𝗄𝗏 and stuff like that. I'm ditching those completely, because everything can be found on side of the shopping tab instead of Google if my search is somewhat properly inserted. So yeah, refined is basically the keyword over here, how things have changed.
Yeah, and you definitely see that, because you actually, when you were working on the shopping mastery course, you were looking for sort of highly optimized shopping listings, and you showed some examples of the shopping tab in the US, which is insane compared to, for example, in the Netherlands. And even I think the Netherlands is also one of the countries that gets new updates as one of the first. But in the US, they're still like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
What kinds of differences do you see there in the search results? Because it's totally different.
Oh, it's totally different. I think the US is always like 1 year ahead if you compare it to where we are inside of Europe, because they're testing and launching all of the new stuff over there. And then, 1 year later, we are introduced to all of the features that have been around over there. So we're like, hey, look at this. It's completely new and revamped. And all of the American colleagues are like, yeah, we have this for a year already. So if you take a look at the product listings over there, especially at the amount of information inside of the product listings and how it is being displayed, is completely different than what we have over here. And what you can see happening right now inside of the US is that Google is pushing a lot towards showcasing the most trustful reseller over there and the most trustful merchant out there. So they have launched, for example, the top quality store badge quite recently, which is a little store badge that you can add, or that is basically added to your product listing ads once your store has an exceptional rating in terms of a store rating, in terms of shipping services, return policies, product feed quality, browsing experience, so how fast is your website. So they are more and more focusing towards, giving the user the best possible option out there, not only in terms of the deal, but also in terms of where it's best to buy the actual product. So the merchant itself inside of the product listing ads has been given way more real estate, where you can see things like the badge, things like the shipping services, things like the return policy, things like the store rating. So Google is designing their product pages a lot more around that. And besides that, you also have way more data points in terms of snippets that have been added to the product listing ads themselves. For example, Google is showing a lot of key attributes, like key product details or USPs below the title and description lines. That is relatively new as well. And with that information, you as a Google user can relatively quickly see if that product is a product you're looking for and has the features and the benefits that you find interesting enough to click on the product listing ad, for example. So yeah, things are quite different. Also in terms of images, for example, they're starting with 3D images, visual try-on images. So they are making the search engine result pages way more interactive and also attractive in comparison to what we have over here right now. So yeah, lots going on right now.
Yeah, so I guess that is, as you said, it's probably to take on the marketplaces and the retailers so that people can find the information they need on Google and then obviously like get the click and sell from there. That's how Google makes their money.
Yeah, and you can also see that by, for example, the deals pages they have. So if you, for example, search for, hey, I'm looking for a men's perfume, and you insert the word deal, you get a way different product page than if you wouldn't add the word deal. And right there, Google is basically creating a list of all of the best deals out there, also segmented by types of products. They're also inserting blocks where you can actually see the products that are receiving the highest reviews by users. They're scraping all of the review data, inserting certain review snippets, so they can highlight the pros and the cons. So yeah, they're really taking on the big comparison platforms over there.
Hey guys, real quick, if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future, and feel free to share with a friend, colleague, or family member, because that's the only way we can grow this show. All right, back to the show. Yeah, and that's I think super interesting developments, because as you mentioned, on the shopping ads, you have much more information now coming from the feed, maybe even from content on the landing pages or on the product pages, all the annotations, stuff like that. What are the most important Google Shopping ranking factors that are available now that we know of, that we can influence to show our shopping ads when people are searching for specific search terms, and to make sure that we win, the auction, or at least get shown in like the first 5 to 10 shopping listings for a specific search term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So I've done some research about how Google is determining the actual rank of your shopping ad. And I basically distilled it down to 3 core categories. And I think the first category is still the most important one, which has to do with your bids. So obviously, Google is still out there to make money.
Of course.
It's still an auction. So you basically can buy your position if you have a lot of money, if you have deep pockets. So even if your deal might not be the best deal out there, you can still pay a lot more than your direct competitors in order to get shown on the first couple of spots, which are the most important spots. So your bid is still really, really, really important. Inside of the EU, you also have a thing like the CSS partner, where you can get like a 20% discount or 25% more bidding power if you pronounce it a different way around. That will also give you way more bidding power. So that's also part of the bid category. But yeah, it basically comes down to how much you're willing to pay for a certain spot. But next to bids, and this is where it becomes, I think, more interesting, and a lot of merchants and a lot of retailers aren't really paying attention to all of these areas, is the second category, which has to do with competitiveness of your product, your deal, basically. So Google is really, really looking at the price of your product. And by price, I mean the price or the actual sale price you're running right now, or you might be running a GMC promotion that also impacts the price below the line. Then they also factor in the shipping price. So a big misconception is that people look at the product's price and do not factor in the shipping price, for example, because you really have to add in the shipping price to the product price to look at the total price of the product. So what do people have to pay in total? And that is the price Google is basically ranking the product on. So even if you are cheaper in terms of the product price or the sale price, but you're more expensive in terms of shipping costs than your direct competitors, and therefore your total costs might be higher, then you may still lose that particular auction because you do not have the best possible deal out there. So those areas are really important, because in the end, Google is a comparison platform, and they want their users to have the best deal possible. And they really want to show the best deal possible, because if Google users do not get the best possible deal when searching for a product on side of Google, they will go to different platforms like Yahoo, Bing, and they might even go to marketplaces directly like Amazon. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do not want at all. So hence the competitiveness and the price is really, really important. And you cannot buy your placement at all times. So even if you have a really high bid, which is 2 times as high as your direct competitor, but your deal is very, very bad in essence, then you might still lose from your direct competitor, because Google really finds the competitiveness important. So next to the price and the promotions that you run, and also the shipping cost, Google is also factoring in a couple of key different aspects as well. And they have basically grouped that together under the shopping experience score. So if you basically score exceptionally well on all of these areas, you get to receive the top quality store badge inside of the US right now. I think it's getting rolled out to different countries in the near future. But they're looking at a couple of factors. So they're looking at your shipping experience, which doesn't only consist of the shipping price, but also the shipping speed. Then they're also looking at the return experience. So what is the return window? So if you have a return window that is exceptionally high, like 120 days versus, for example, 14 days, then that is a really, really good sign that you are taking customer experience seriously. But also the return cost. So whether you're the one paying for the return or the customer. So they're also taking that into consideration. And lastly, they also factor in browsing experience and purge experience, where they look at how fast is your website. If you add images to all of your product pages, how many images have been added to your product pages? What is the resolution of your product images? How fast is your website? So what is the page speed score of your website? What are the payment methods that are being linked to your website? For example, is PayPal connected? Does that make your store maybe more trustworthy? Can people validate that you are in fact a trustworthy business? So they factor in all these variables and all these aspects to basically determine how competitive you are versus direct competitors. And sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then lastly, you have the last category when talking about shopping ranking factors, which has to do with the context of your product listing. And the context really comes down to your product data. So what are you sending over inside of your product feed? What are you sending over inside of your direct Google Ads API connection? Are you sending over all of the product details in a really optimized way? Are you utilizing all of the required, recommended, and also sometimes optional attributes out there? Does your product really tells the full story? So if you do that right and you really optimize your product data, then Google is also going to favor your placement over a direct competitor's placement.
Yeah, super interesting. So to paraphrase, you have obviously bids because you can sort of pay to win, but then you still need to have that's sort of like on the Google side, and they use all kinds of contextual signals from your store, from your pages, from your feed to determine whether you can rank or not. But it also sounds like everything around it, from the user experience, is also becoming much more important. And I always feel like shopping is, you're in the middle of trying to set up the things so that you can rank according to what Google needs, sort of what the machine needs. But then there's, on the other hand, you always need to factor in what does the consumer, the customer actually need. And they need competitive prices. They want to be persuaded with good images and a lot of extra information to push them forward to buy from you and not from a competitor. So if you look at, for example, your product feed, that's the last thing you mentioned in the contextual part of the ranking factors. What are the most important attributes in the shopping feed that every merchant needs to optimize in order to make sure that you have good product listings?
Yeah, so there are like 70 plus different attributes that you can send over to Google. So prioritizing the correct attribute is really, really important because it really makes a difference. So I think it is the most important to to optimize all of the required attributes first. So with that, I mean really basic attributes that a lot of people are still missing out on. First of all, for example, product identifiers. I still see a lot of different product feeds where people forget to send over really important information like the 𝗤TIN, for example, which is the product identifier that really tells Google what the product is that you're sending over. And by sending over the 𝗤TIN, you can really signal to Google what the product variant is you have over here, and Google can use that identifier to basically match your product with all of the other products out there that have been submitted by different merchants as well. So therefore, it allows Google to really simply compare prices and compare all of the products in their ecosystem. So that is really important. Next to product identifiers like 𝗤TIN, you also have basic stuff like the brand, the MPN that needs to be on point. You have required attributes like the title and the description that a lot of people are still not paying a lot of attention to. So oftentimes people just send over the product title they have added to their web shop's product page. But yeah, sometimes people want to keep it short because otherwise it's getting too long. And it's getting cut off on the category pages. So they really, just leave out certain product attributes to make it fit. Well, it's your job to instruct Google with the core attributes and features and benefits of your particular product, and also include that within your title. So make sure to include the actual product type. So what is it that you sell? Make sure to include important information like the color, the material, sometimes even the pattern, important keywords and other different attributes out there that are important to highlight. Because Google is taking into consideration all of those information when matching your product to a specific user query. Same goes for description lines, for example. A description line is often also not optimized. People are just sending over their short description from the product page, and you can include a lot of different attributes inside of your description that you do not have room for within your title, for example. And it's quite easy to optimize for that nowadays, especially with the help of tools like ChatGPT, where you can insert your product attributes and then ask ChatGPT to write a really compelling description line that includes all of the particular attributes that you want to include inside of your description line. That also includes your most interesting search terms that you want to get found on, for example. So those attributes, the basic required attributes, are still the most important ones to get right and to optimize first. But then you're starting to have room to optimize the optional. And a lot of optional attributes are also, in my eyes, recommended to send over. And this is where a lot of merchants just stop, which I think is a pity, because you can make the difference over here. For example, I have not seen a lot of advertisers sending over a lifestyle image link. I have not seen a lot of advertisers sending over product highlights and product detail attributes. I have not seen people send over, for example, the virtual model link, the 3D image link that is now available inside of the US. So if you are active in a really competitive market and you want to increase the signals that you give to Google, and you want to increase the ad rank of your shopping ad by making your product data more contextually relevant, then, I think it is really important to start looking for all of those optional attributes as well and start working on them and send them over to Google.
Yeah. So it sounds like Google Shopping is a lot of prep work before you launch the campaign, because you have your feed needs to be optimized. And as you said, like most advertisers, they just fill out the required attributes. Like otherwise, your ad is just not going to launch. But then they stop. But in Google Merchant Center, there are actually a lot of things that are also crucial to set up, like you said, with the new shopping experience scorecard. And I think from what you've told me, that Google Merchant Center Next, GMC Next, is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
so
we have to give them credit. Yeah, we have to be
exactly.
We have to be really honest. And I told you last week, like I'm really happy with the update that Google gave us with Google Merchant Center Next, because a lot more reports and a lot more information got available if you compare it to Google Merchant Center Classic. And there's a lot of stuff you can set up inside of GMC Next, and a lot of things you can report on and analyze within GMC Next that I think is getting more and more important the upcoming years ahead. So, for example, within GMC Next, you have the competition report, where you can really zoom in on your most important competitors. You can also see brands and products that you do not sell right now, but are really in high demand by a lot of Google users right now. So they basically just give you all of the products of brands you sell, but products you haven't included inside of your assortment, ranked by the user's demand, by the popularity in terms of new search volume, for example. And they just tell you, hey, why not consider adding this product to your assortment? Because we see a lot of people are searching for this product. And since you're already selling this brand, it might be really easy for you to just add this product. And based on what you sell, based on the products you sell, on the brands you sell, we also find a couple of similar looking brands that you do not sell right now, that you could also consider adding to your assortment, because the popularity is rising for those products. So you're missing out on a lot of sales volume. So stuff like that is really, really powerful to basically send over to your stakeholders once in a while, for example, every quarter, every month. And you're like, hey, look at this. Might be interesting to consider adding, or to ask our supplier about these products and brands. Next to that, you also have, we also had this inside of GMC Classic, but I think the price competitiveness reports are getting more and more important as well, because, Google is getting more and more competitive the last couple of years, and that isn't going to stop. They just want to give their users the best deal possible. So therefore, they have made the price points of the products you sell available as well, and they compare it to the competitor prices. So you can see if you maybe have to lower down your prices in order to make your prices more compelling. So stuff like this is really, really interesting.
Yeah. And do you recommend people to just every once in a week, once per week or so, look in GMC in these reports, or is it something you do monthly, daily? What does that look like for you?
Well, stuff like new products you could consider, new brands you could consider. I think if you do that every quarter, for the most brands and most merchants, that would be frequent enough. But for example, the competitiveness report and the price competitiveness report, you might want to look in that every single month in order to see how you behave versus your most important competitors. And next to that, you can find all of the information inside of GMC Next, but sometimes it is quite generic, and you still have to trust Google on all of these data sources. And you also do not know how frequently they update these data points. So I think it is also really wise to look for ways and look for external tools that can do the same, but can give you way more data, way more frequently in an automized way. And I think that is becoming increasingly important for the larger advertisers out there.
Yeah. So after you do the preparation for Google Shopping, which is everything we just basically spoke about.
There's much more to that, but in general.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. But let's super simplify it. You have your data input is right. Then you move on to the next steps, which is probably campaign structure. Unless there's anything else like in between. But how do you go about your campaign structure with Google Shopping? What are some best practices there?
Ooh, it really depends based on the size of the account and also the assortment, the price, the price comparison, you versus competitors. But yeah, for example, let's say you are active in a really competitive market and you're doing a lot of conversion volumes, then I think you really need to step up your game in terms of campaign structures. So just running one PMax full asset or one PMax feed only campaign doesn't do it anymore, doesn't cut it anymore. So you need to make some sort of proactive or sometimes also reactive structure that you can implement for those types of accounts. So one of the most basic and most popular structures out there right now is the labelizer structure. Where you can basically bucket your products based on the historical performance of your products, and you can segment them based on performance, volumes, and whatnot. And this is the really popular framework that Product Hero has come up with, which is called the heroes, sidekicks, villains, and zombies framework. So I still use that a lot, especially for the mid-volume clients out there. But then you sometimes also come across the really high volume accounts where it is really competitive out there, and over there you can also start thinking about making things more proactive. And this is something that Ruben Runnebaum also speaks about a lot, where he talks about, for example, crafting a scoring model, a custom scoring model for a client, where you can then score your products based on a couple of first-party variables that are important to you as a merchant. For example, the price, the historical performance, the inventory levels, the available variants in terms of sizes, for example, the return rate of the product, the seasonality of the product. And based on all of those variables, you can come up with a score and then start bucketing your products based on the actual score. So let's say you have a score ranging from 1 to 10. Then you can create 3 buckets. For example, a score 0 to 5 is your low priority bucket. So all of your lowest scored products are getting bucketed in that particular campaign that you can set a relatively low budget to. Then you have your mid-priority campaign, which could be all of the products that have been scored between 5 to 7. So you are upping the budget a little bit more for those products. And then you have a high-priority bucket with product scoring with a 7 or higher. And all of your effort need to go to, that bucket first. So your budget needs to be spent for all of those products. You might want to increase your bids for those high priority products. So that's a more proactive way of structuring your campaigns. So that is really interesting for the more tech savvy and or just savvy advertisers out there. And then you have a wild range of different strategies and building blocks you can add to your current structures. But some advertisers do not even get there. So I need to be really clear over here and also complete. So sometimes you also have relatively small accounts and small shopping campaigns where it doesn't even make sense to segment out your products because you simply do not have the data for it in order to do so. So segmenting and advanced structures are really awesome and really cool to work with, and they often bring in great results. But you need to maintain conversion volumes on the campaign level in order to make it work. Because from my personal experience, I see that you need at least 30 to 50 conversions per month per campaign in order to properly instruct your smart bidding algo. And for smaller advertisers, that sometimes isn't possible to hit, and they're already struggling with a lot of to bring in at least a couple of conversions per month. So there's a lot to be told over here, and every account is unique, and every account needs its own structure. But I'm just giving you a couple of examples of how you could implement all of your data points to craft a campaign structure that is good for your unique case.
Yeah, I think that's really solid. And for me, what I usually do if I'm running shopping campaigns for clients with low conversion volumes, one thing that is such an easy win, because you have limited budget, that means that you only want to spend your budget on a certain range of products, maybe specific categories, bestsellers, products that you already have data for, that we're selling maybe on other channels or just in the business in general. Include those initially, and then start to spend on sort of the products that have proven to perform. Because a big mistake that I see oftentimes that's being made is you have 1 or 2 shopping campaigns with thousands of products, and then 20, 30, 50 euros daily spend for, let's say, 1 or 2 conversions per day, which is already a lot for those budgets. Let's say it's 1 conversion per day, and you're spreading your budget way too thin on hundreds or maybe sometimes even thousands of products that are all getting 1 click per day or so. Then you're really as I said, you're spreading yourself too thin, and you're wasting your money, and you're better off just focusing on the things that are proven to work initially, grow that up, ramp that up, and then from there on expand to other categories and other products that maybe have not been proven to work as much.
80-20.
Exactly. Yeah. 80-20.
Yeah. So there are so many different playbooks over here that you can basically think about, and it all comes down to the situation you're in. We can basically create separate episodes about campaign structures for different kinds of client times, because there's so much to discuss.
Yeah, and that's why the shopping mastery course is now 15 hours. It's almost finished. It's going to be 20 hours. Yeah. 20 hours. So 20 hours on shopping, and now we have 36 minutes. So just imagine how much more there is. But if you had to give people, let's say, 1 or 2 things to really nail for Google Shopping, what would it be?
Fundamentals. I think fundamentals are way, way, way more important than your campaign structure, for example. So if you are limited by time, limited by resources, and you want to focus your hours to make the highest return on effort, for example, then just focus on the fundamentals. Get your GMC account straight. Optimize your GMC account. Make sure that you are competitive versus your most important competitors in the same auctions. So create a list of all of your most important competitors. Look at their shipping policy. Look at their return policy. Look at their costs. Look at how you can maybe drive down your shipping cost, how you can increase your return window to make you as a merchant the better choice. Look for ways to make your product's prices more compelling. Look if there's any more margin out there that you can basically use in order to decrease your prices. Because the price is still going to be the most important factor out there. So if you're in a really high competitive market and you're having a lot of SKUs that you're advertising with, also consider price monitoring. And also consider automatic repricing tools. Create price rules that lower your product's price when a competitor drops their price with 5%. Look for a way to match that price and respect your margin, for example, because it's always a game of who has the best deal out there. And the one with the best possible deal is getting favored a lot by Google, and you have to bid way less to Google in order to make that product show for the top placements inside of the SERP. So that's my core takeaway. Start with the fundamentals first. Look for ways to make your assortment as compelling and attractively priced as possible. And you really need your stakeholders for this. You cannot do this alone as a Google Ads specialist. You need to explain how the Google shopping ad rank is getting determined by Google, and explain to your stakeholders what they can do in order to, increase their rankings.
Yeah, this is really solid. And it goes back to being a business partner for your clients. I think that's the cool thing about Google Shopping, because all the things that you just mentioned, you said nothing about your bids or your targets or bid strategy or campaign structure. All you said is make sure that your client is making the right business decisions, and challenge them and encourage them and help them to have the right pricing, right shipping, the right, maybe even extend their return policy, as you said, because that has a big influence on the shopping experience, scorecard, etc.
Yeah, and look for products your competitors sell, but your client isn't selling right now. Look for attractive bundles you could create in order to create a different product that cannot be easily compared to your competitors' assortment, for example. Look for ways to maybe create your own product variants that cannot be replicated at all. That makes comparing on the price really hard, not only for your competitors, but also by users, and therefore make it more compelling, for example. So there's so much to consider over here that I think the business partner side of things really is going to make a huge difference in how your shopping ads will perform. And then obviously you have all of the technical things and all of the campaign tactics that you can consider, and that is going to make a difference. But that's only going to make a difference if you have your foundations right. Because if you have crappy foundations, you can still create a client-specific scoring model. You can still create a labelizer setup where you segment heroes, sidekicks, etc. But it isn't going to do anything because your foundations are just shite. So that's really important.
Yeah. And with that said, we put 6 months, maybe even more, into creating the Shopping Mastery course. And as we mentioned, it's like 20 hours on the entire range of everything that goes into Google Shopping. For now, it's an exclusive course for the PPC Hub. So if you want access to that, definitely check out the PPC Hub, ppcmastery.com/hub. Maybe in the future, it's going to be a standalone course. But right now, as it stands at this time, it's just exclusive for the PPC Hub. And when you join, obviously, there's other courses like Search Mastery, soon Bids and Budgets, Performance Max, conversion tracking, all kinds of things to help you truly master Google Ads. Bob, is there anything else you want to say to close this off?
So much more to say, but I think everything will be said inside of the course. I think we can address certain areas within the shopping ads context in future episodes as well. Like I said already, within just campaign structures or just the scoring model alone, you can talk for hours about that topic. So that might be interesting.
Yeah, so this might be a cool call to action to you as the listener. If you want us to do, let's say, a mini series or something like that on specific topics, could be here, shopping. We did a whole episode about search as well, Bob. That can be breaking down into 8 episodes of 1 hour each.
Easily.
Yeah, easy. So if there's any feedback you have for us for the PPC Mastery Podcast, if there's any topics you want us to address, like in mini series or different episodes within a certain topic to go really deep in the nitty gritty of these things, let me know. Send me a DM on LinkedIn or send an email to info@ppcmastery.com. And we truly appreciate and love all the feedback, because then we can use that to make these episodes even better. So with that said, Bob, thanks again for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Peace.
Peace. All right, that's the end of this episode of the PPC Mastery Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you don't want to miss any future episodes, we're going to be back next week. Then don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend, family member, or a colleague, because that's the only way we can grow this show. Now, there's 2 more things I want to share with you. If you want to take your Google Ads game to the next level, the first one is, if you want to get advanced Google Ads tips delivered straight into your inbox on Mondays and Fridays, head over to ppcmastery.com/newsletter to subscribe to our newsletter called the PPC Edge. And next to that, if you want to really take your skills to the next level and become the best Google Ads specialist you can possibly be, then consider joining the PPC Hub, which is our coaching and community platform for experienced Google Ads specialists. You can find everything about it on ppcmastery.com/hub. And with that said, I'll catch you in next week's episode. Peace.